Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. Today we are going to sew our Snowball quilt block, and if you are part of our Quilt-along, this forms part of our quilt. However, if you're not part of the Quilt-along, that is fine. This quilt block, the Snowball, is a really great one for beginners, and I'm going to show you how to make that. And this block by itself can make a great beginner's quilt. So if you're not part of the Quilt-along, don't worry, I've still got you. I'm also going to show you a playful 3D version of this block, so stay tuned for that. For everyone that is doing our Quilt-along, welcome back. Video number 2, we're getting these snowballs done to put next to our 9 patch. Okay, don't forget to use the hashtag Quilt-along-with-Rachel on Instagram so I can see your work. If you don't have the pattern, it is on Etsy, Layla Gardunia. It's called the 9 patch Scrappy Stars. I will link that below. You will need that for the sizes of the squares and how many to cut. All right, so the snowball, it's a large square with triangles in the corner. All right, when put together with the 9 patch, it makes a star. Okay, so 9 patch we've done last week. And the stars. This is the 3D version. You can put your finger in. I'll show you how to do that later. All right. So I've already gone ahead and cut my large squares. So like I said, the pattern will tell you because it will depend on whether you're doing a baby quilt or up to a queen quilt. I'm making a single size, so twin, for my little niece who's 4 years old, and I'm making mine in a rainbow. So here are my 9 patch that I've already created. So I've got the red, and then we have orange, yellow, which you saw me make in last videos. The last video, I'll link that below if you missed making those 9 patches. Green, I loved those greens. The blue, purple, I didn't have enough fabric, but my mum just came back from France and she bought me some purple fabric. So stay tuned to the end. I'll show you the purple fabric. The indigo indigo comes next. I've half made them. I just need to iron them. And then the purple with the new fabric. So they're the 9 patch. So now we need to make the snowballs to make our points of our stars. So the first step, I've just laid out my first 3 layers, because I want to individually pick which color I put as each star point. So my first row is red, so I'm going to take my small stars and simply just place them adjacent to my 9 patch. They'll be on the corners to decide where I'm going to put my colors. So for example, this one I don't want next to this one, but maybe I'll put it up there. That's fine, and I've got this one I could put there, and maybe a solid red there. So then I have 4 pieces of small squares on my large square. They will be turned into triangles, don't worry, they will be star points. So I'll lay out my small squares first, and then we'll start sewing. I was about 3 little blocks short, which is always the way, but that's okay. I'll deal with that later. So let's take one of the squares that has 4 colors on it. So just bring that out like that. So we're going to work on this one. All right, you will need a pen. I've got 2 options here. I might try out this one as an erasable, like heat erasable pen. and you'll need a ruler. We place our little squares right sides together with our large square. If you are just making snowballs, not related to this quilt-along, it doesn't really matter what size your square and your small squares are. Okay, it will still work no matter the size. So then we take our pen and we are drawing a line diagonally. I want to utilize this 45-degree line. That will help me. So see how I got this is a 45-degree line on my ruler, and I'm going to line up the edge of that small block on that 45-degree line. But I also need it to go from corner to corner, just like that. So draw a line there. Did that work? Yeah. So you're going to do that for all four. Where's my 45? There it is. So bring that down so I can line up that line. Lining up my corners of my triangle, corner to corner. You could actually draw these lines before they're placed. For example, you can just take your squares and you can draw, where's my 45? Keep losing it. From corner to corner before and then place them. So we are placing them so that the line goes from side to side. That's actually going to become our stitch line. Okay. Corner to corner, 45 is along that straight edge. And draw my line. Okay, placing on here. At this stage, you could put some pins to hold in place these blocks. Do I want to do that? Do I have pins? That's the question. Oh, I have my pins here, so I may as well do that. Just to hold it in place, probably just up this end. Just a little pin. And our little square is lined up with the corner of our big square as neat as you can, as precise as you can. And one pin in there to hold it in place. Okay. At the machine, you're going to do a stitch along those four lines. I'm going to use a stitch length of 2.5. I've threaded my machine up with red, but I mean, I could have used the white as well. Didn't really matter. All right, let's do that. I just have my regular foot and just following that line. I've got an automatic cutter on my machine, but you might not. That's okay. And I'll just snip that off. I always like to start with a little bit of fabric. It just stops the stitches getting all tangled underneath. So now we're moving on to our next one. Because of the diagonal nature, it won't butt up against the piece. You'll have a bit of a gap, but your machine will sew nothing. That's fine. I am still checking that they're lined up. That one was a bit wonky, even though the pin was in it. So just making sure the edges are going, are lined up with each other. And as you can see, when I sew, I really hang on to it all. So I'll show you in a minute. So I get going and I line this up and I use all my fingers to like hold it in place. Okay, I'm always holding. This is why I often don't need to sew with pins, because I use my fingers to hold things in place right till the moment that it goes under the foot. I am experienced though, and I'm used to the machine. I am not scared of getting my fingers caught because I have been sewing for a long time, and I guess I'm aware. So that comes with time. So if you're a beginner, that's why pinning is helpful for beginners. Then you can start using sort of your fingers. Take these pins out. Just popped it onto my round cutting mat. This one actually rotates. It's by Sue Daly if you are interested. And I am going to trim 1/4 inch off the side of my blocks with rotary cutter, just like this. So the stitch line, 1/4 inch from that. Probably needed a smaller ruler as well, so I don't have this big long one. Now, when these get pressed open, it turns back into a square with triangle points. All right, those are very similar, aren't they? Did I do that right? So as you can see, I'm just opening it and pushing it outwards so that the seam is pointing to the outside of the block. Then the trick will be to work out which way you envisioned this. I think that way, because I had that opposite that, yeah. So that way. So that block is complete, and you do the same for the others. As you can see, this is the full snowball block with 4 triangles. You will have some in this quilt, for this quilt-along, that only have 2, that are not bordering another star. So this was considered a half snowball. You do the same thing, but just for 2 sides. Okay, these ones here, can you see that one? Yep. This one, I won't be stitching these yet because I'm going to have orange stars below it. So this one all along here, I'll wait. I'll have 2 orange points that I want to add on to those. Okay, so that's how you do a snowball. Let me show you a 3D snowball. So this was a quilt I made prior to this one, and it was prior to me having the pattern. I kind of just made it up. It is a similar thing, although they're not separated stars. They're all together. There is a whole playlist for this quilt, so you'll be able to see it. But these snowballs, they're not stitched in, okay? They are simply square pieces of fabric that I ironed in half, okay? Then with my white, yeah, it was a white background on that one as well. So that's there. I just would place them here and do a little stitch here on this side and this side to hold them in place. Okay, and then carry on making the quilt as usual, and so that they are 3D and you could stick your finger in them. That was just an experimentation, you guys. I'd never done anything like that before. It was just to have a play around and see what I could do that was different in quilting. So somebody did mention, oh, be careful, that might like catch and rip. And look, it might, but at this stage it hasn't. I was still able to quilt it. I still need to bind this quilt, but I was going to bind it alongside the one I'm making at the moment. So as you can see, it is the same quilt, but I've got additional 9 patch. So you could turn this pattern, Layla's pattern, into this quilt by simply having more 9 patch. I'll show you where they would go. So if this was your quilt, you would have an extra 9 patch here instead of that being, so I'll just move this one, instead of that being another white patch, you would go like this. And then it looks like a lattice effect. So I'm going to spend some time now this afternoon putting together as many of these as I can. I could at this stage then piece row 1 and row 2 together. I need to wait for my orange and put my orange down here before I sew these ones. Or if you don't want to at this stage start piecing your quilt, you can simply pick up your pieces and put them in order, put a little sticky note with a pin that's showing like row 1 and have the left hand side on first on the top and going down, and then you could have row 2 and have them in piles once I've made these snowballs. But yeah, the snowball block is pretty easy, isn't it? And you can just cut squares. You don't actually have to cut triangles, so that's really good for beginners. And you can draw your line to follow. That is also good for beginners. And if you only had these blocks next to each other, okay, what it makes is a little square on a diamond with 4 colors in it. And you could do that randomized. You could also fussy cut and have images that you've chosen on the background fabric. You could also alternate light background, dark background, light background, dark background, the light with the dark and the dark with the light. That would really make an interesting quilt as well. But in this case, for our quilt-along, they become the points of our stars, and our center of the stars is the 9 patch. All right, let me show you the purple fabric that my mum brought me back from France, because I thought I didn't have enough purple fabric if you saw last video. And I said in the video, oh, I think I might need to go buy some. I also hand dye my own fabric, so that was an option, although I've already got some purple that's hand dyed here. And luckily for me, Mum had just, in France, she had written on my YouTube channel under that video that she'd just bought me some fabric in France and it was purple, so what good timing. So these are the 2 colors that she got me. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope that was helpful to you. If you are working on this quilt-along, I hope yours is going well. I'd love to see your photos and your images and your fabric, so make sure you use that hashtag quilt-along with Rachel on Instagram so I can have a look. Thank you always for your comments. They always brighten up my day. They're so lovely. You guys are amazing. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.